Fungua milango Baba. Aha. Fungua milango iliyofungwa Baba. Fanya njia pasipo na njia. Fungua milango iliyofungwa Baba. Fanya njia pasipo na njia. Paulo na Sila pale gerezani walikuita, milango ikafunguka. Nami nakuita, fungua milango, fungua milango, wana wako wapitie. Ulifanya njia bahari ya Shamu, wana wa Israeli wakapita, mpasua bahari. Nakuita Baba, fanya njia watu wapitie. Fungua milango iliyofungwa Baba. Fanya njia pasipo na njia. Fungua milango iliyofungwa Baba. Fanya njia pasipo na njia.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. How are you? We are fine, thank you, sir. And how are you? I'm fine, thank you. Now, we discussed the solar system. And now, we have another lesson, another topic. It's not closely related to the solar system, but we shall be able to see what is there for us. Understood? Yes. We shall be talking about the weather. We shall be talking about the weather. The weather, and more specifically the weather instruments. The weather instruments. First of all, what is the weather? Weather is said to be the atmospheric condition of a place at a given time. Understood? I want us to concentrate wholly on what will be presented to us. Understood? Yes. Thereafter we shall see what took place.
Hello and welcome to yet another section of science. Very good. That is Mercury,
Weather.
hello and welcome to yet another edition of science. In this lesson, we are going to study our surrounding and more detail about weather. Now, the atmosphere changes every now and then. Occasionally, in the morning, probably it could be cold. Later, it becomes warm and probably hot as the sun rises. With the changing of time, it could be windy, cloudy, rainy, and so on. All that is what makes up weather. Now, to understand this well, let us study or have a look at the apparatus used at the weather station. This first one is called a sunshine recorder. It It measures the length of time in a day when the sun shines. When the sun shines, this ball, which is highly sensitive, reflects light and directs it to the central part of this paper tape. The paper tape responds very fast to the hot sun, such that it burns with every intensity of the heat. The paper is graduated from 8 to 8 in the evening, so that when the sun rises, it is able to record. The ball is able to attract and finally reflect the heat and light to the central part of the paper. Later, the reader will take the times during which it burned and also know when it didn't burn. That way, the scientist will be able to know the times during the day when there was sun and when there was no sun. Remember, I said the ball on the top here is highly sensitive to light, that whenever there is any sparkle of it, it will attract and direct to the sensitive part of the paper, which is graduated or calibrated from morning to evening. That way, the scientists are able to let our farmers know when to harvest, because harvesting needs sunny times, and they also know when to advise the farmers to plant their crops, because planting does not need light. Next is an instrument, like you can see, with caps. The caps all face the same direction. They cannot work unless wind blows, unless air occupies the spaces inside the cap. It cannot move at all if there is no air in motion. So as the caps rotate, the scale beneath the caps move. Later, the reading is taken. The reading is taken automatically via the cables which are electrical at the weather house. So when the speed of wind is low, the scale at the weather house reads low. And when the speed is high at the weather station, the scale inside the weather house is also high. Remember, this is called an anemometer. It only works when air occupies the space inside the caps and starts to move. Next to the anemometer is this large dish. The large dish is colored black inside. Outside is silvery coated and with water in it. The dish is meant to measure evaporation, the rate of evaporation. Therefore, it is called an evaporating dish. Now, why is it colored black inside? Why is it silvery coated outside? And why is it put in the open? It is colored black because black color absorbs heat. So during the day, when the sun shines, the black color inside the evaporating dish absorbs the heat and radiates it into the water. The water later gets heated to evaporating point and then evaporates. Why the silver coating outside? The silver coating outside is meant to radiate any external heat. The surrounding at times can reflect heat and light, and if this heat is allowed into the evaporating dish, then the scientists will not be able to take the correct measurement or the correct rate of evaporation of the sun. Remember, the source of heat that should hit the water inside the evaporating dish must only be the sun. Now, this part I am touching has a sharp protruding end called the datum level. The datum level is the part at which the scientists will be able to see if the level of water has gone down or has been maintained. This way, we are able to understand how much water evaporated from the recorded heat of the sun. Like I said, it is painted black, remember, for heat absorption. It is painted silvery outside for radiation, so that heat from outside the atmosphere, does not hit the water inside the container, and it has the covering mesh, the wire mesh on top of it to prevent any foreign material, any animals from falling into the container. Now, the third instrument we are going to talk about measures the amount of water inside the soil. It is connected to a porous pipe. Porous means hollow, with the small holes. So the small holes are able to pilfer, to bring in water into the pipe, and by capillarity, water rises inside the tube up to the scale. Once it is on the scale is able to take the measurement in percentage. Remember, as you can see in my photos, the tensiometer, the instrument is called a tensiometer. The tensiometers are calibrated in percentage. The higher the amount of water in the soil, the greater the percentage. The porous pipes are dug into the soil to a given height or to a given depth. For instance, the first one would be dug to a depth of 100 meters, 40 meters, 30 meters. So that the depth of the porous pipe tells us what amount of water is contained into the soil up to that depth. Remember, like I said, the water rises up the porous tube by capillarity. This way, scientists help the farmers to know which types of soils or which areas of the land have enough water for the crops they want to plant. Remember, there are plants that need a lot of water, while there are others that don't need a lot of it. They also use a tensiometer to help builders, those who construct houses and any other structures, know to what level they can get water during their construction. Finally, it can also be used to get to know the depth to which borehole diggers and well diggers can get water from the soil. The next photo is of a rain gauge, and as you will realize, there are different forms or types of rain gauges. The first one we are seeing measures amount of rain using a tipping bucket inside it. The tipping bucket is painted black, as you can see in my photo, and once filled with the 2 millimeters of rainfall, it tips, meaning it falls. Once it falls, it touches the wires or the cables that are electronically connected to the weather house, and the weatherman inside the weather house takes the amount of rainfall as the rain falls. Remember, when the funnel up there collects the water is taken into the tipping basket or the tipping bucket, which is plastic in nature. The tipping bucket tips and falls, touching the electrical or the electrified cables, which send the amount of rain to the weather house immediately. When it rains, water fills the black plastic on a side and it falls, like you can see in the photo. The cable next to the gauge transmits information to the weatherman inside the house, and the amount of rainfall is taken in millimeters as the rain falls. The next photo represents the standard rain gauge, the rain gauge that we always know about. Our normal rain gauge that is dug into the ground at some point. Two reasons why this is dug to the ground, like you can see it. One, for stability, so that it doesn't fall in case of strong rain or wind. And two, it is dug in the ground to avoid evaporation of the collected water. Remember, soil is a poor conductor of heat, and therefore will not allow the heat from the atmosphere to be conducted into the water, so that the water is heated and later evaporated. Unlike the first rain gauge, our standard rain gauge only measures after every 24 hours. It is also left tall on the ground. Why? To prevent the splashing of water, so that it only takes the measurement of the water from the sky and not the splashed one. The next and the final rain gauge, which is tall, strong, big, and fixed by bolts onto the ground, is used where there is flood. Think of our country, places like Budalangi, the Kano Plains, and other areas where there are always floods during long rains. If you use the other two rain gauges, then the flooding water can easily flood into the rain gauge, and that will not give you the correct measurement. Next is an automatic weather station. Why automatic? Because it has all the weather measuring implements that measure the aspects of air, that is, the anemometer, the windsock, the wind vane. It also has the barometer and the thermometers. So it is a weather station that is automatic, and once at it, you don't need to move from one point to another to take the measurement of the speed of wind, the direction of wind, the thermometer or the temperature or the amount of rainfall. It can measure all the aspects of air and temperature at the same time. Next is the Stevenson screen. The Stevenson screen is simply a structure about 60 meters above the ground. In it, there are the barometers, there are the 4 types of thermometers, that is the minimum and the maximum thermometers. Then you also have the wet bulb and the dry bulb thermometers. It also has the hygrometer that measures humidity. The minimum thermometer, as you can see in the photo, is the yellow one, which measures the minimum temperature of the day. For instance, you have occasionally heard the weatherman say, today it is expected that the temperature in your area will go up to 13 degrees Celsius. In that case, they use the minimum thermometer, which is yellow in color. The next one to it is the maximum thermometer, which is clear. It is used to measure the highest temperature of the day, and just like the previous one, the weatherman uses it to predict the maximum, the highest temperatures of a day, how hot the day will be on a particular day. Next to it, behind, is the wet bulb thermometer, which is connected to a water container and a bulb with water. It measures the highest amount of humidity, how much humidity, how much water vapor the atmosphere carries when it is wet. And next to it is the dry bulb thermometer, which measures the humidity when the atmosphere is less humid. Wet bulb thermometer is connected to a bulb with water, and it measures the humidity on a cold day, on a wet day. Then this next to it is a hygrometer, which uses the human hair. Those strands of strings are human hair. They are connected to a bar or a pointer, which points to the graph. The human hair is used on these apparatus because they are highly sensitive to humidity. Remember, the hygrometer measures humidity as well. That is the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. When it is humid, or when there is a lot of water vapor in the atmosphere, the human hair or the strands of human hair contract. When they contract, they pull the pointer upwards, thus it will go towards 100%. Again, humidity is in percentage on this bar graph, as you can see it. When it is hot, or when it is less humid, with little or no water vapor in the atmosphere, then the human hair expands. And when it expands, it pushes the pointer downwards. And when it is pushing downwards, the pointer rises towards 0. That way, the weatherman is able to tell how much water is contained in the atmosphere within the 24 hours of a day. Remember, the hygrometer, just like the initial ones we have seen, also measure the humidity. I say the wet and the dry bulb thermometers measure humidity, and now again, this apparatus, the hygrometer, also measures humidity. Next is that the instrument that measure rain, like we said initially, that measure evaporation, and those that measure wind, whether the strength, the direction, or the speed, must be put, 1, on a flat ground, and 2, at points or places that are far away from tall obstacles. Because the sun should not be prevented from the sunshine recorder, the rain should not be barred from the rain gauge, and again the heat from the sun should not be barred or stopped from the evaporating dish. This way, the weathermen are able to predict the day's weather, and we shall be able to put on either warm or heavy or light clothes. Until next time, we shall meet again to study the solar system. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Yes. We've learned something. Have you learned something?
Yes.
What have we learned about? What have we learned about? Yes, yeah? What have you learned about? Yes, what have we learned about? Weather. The weather measuring instruments. Which weather measuring instruments did you learn about? One, can you get them one? Rain gauge, good. Anemometer, let's put them down. Weather measuring instruments. Weather measuring instruments. We talked about weather, and we said weather is the atmospheric condition of a given place. Of a place at a given place over it is the atmospheric condition of a given place at a given time, and we normally say over a short period of time. Understood? Understood? We have weather conditions like maybe it is sunny, it may be rainy, it may be windy, and all that. Now, today's lesson we are learning about weather measuring instruments, and we mentioned one, rain gauge. Second one was anemometer. Third one, behind. That you wanted to mention the automatic weather station. Automatic weather station. That one contains almost or most of the weather measuring instruments. Which other instrument did we learn about? The one of them? Anemometer is there. Thermometers. Which thermometers did we hear being mentioned for measuring weather? We had the minimum and maximum. Minimum and maximum thermometers. Now the rain gauge is used to measure an aspect of weather. Which aspect? What is the rain gauge used to measure? Good, clap for him. You see, rain gauge is used to measure the amount of rainfall. And that's true. It is used to measure amount of rainfall. Amount of rainfall within a given day. The amount of rainfall is measured in units called measured in millimeters. Measured in millimeters. Can we say millimeters?
Millimeters.
Amount of rainfall is measured in millimeters. The instrument used to measure the amount of rain is called a rain gauge. And we learned that the rain gauge must be put in an open place away from the trees so that nothing can block the raindrops from falling into it. Understood?
Yes.
We have the anemometer. Anemometer is used to measure. What is anemometer used to measure, Preston? The speed of wind. Correct. Clap for him. Good, thank you. Anemometer is used to measure the speed of wind. Rain gauge uses the principle that liquids occupy space inside a container. Anemometer uses the principle that gases occupy space, and that when this gas fits in the cup and makes it move, it means that it is gases filling the space inside the cups and making the cups move. It will make the anemometer cups to rotate. When it rotates at a slow speed, it means that the wind is low. When it rotates at a very high speed, it means that the speed of the wind is very high. Understood?
Yes.
Minimum and maximum thermometers, what are they used to measure? Which aspect of weather do they measure? Minimum and maximum thermometer. They are used to measure the highest temperature of the day and the lowest temperature of the day. Understood? Minimum will show us the lowest temperature of that day. Understood? And maximum thermometer will show us the highest level of heat or temperature for that particular day. Understood? Now, when we are looking at the weather measuring instruments, where are they normally found in most cases? In places like the weather station, places like the airports, and even the places like the railway stations. You can get some of these instruments. Understood? Apart from that, we made you heard that very many of these things were mentioned, which are used to show us the aspects of weather. Now, how many of you have any question concerning the weather you are talking about? Any question? Did you understand the lesson? Did you understand the lesson?
Yes.
Good. Then with that, we come to the end of today's lessons. We shall continue tomorrow. And tomorrow, we shall start earlier than today. Understood?
Yes.
Tomorrow we shall start earlier than today. So you can have a good evening.
Fungua milango baba. Aha. Fungua milango iliyofungwa baba. Fanya njia pasipo na njia. Fungua milango iliyofungwa baba. Fanya njia pasipo na njia. Paulo na Sila walikuita, milango ikafunguka. Nami nakuita, fungua milango, fungua milango. Wana wako wapitie. Ulifanya njia bahari ya Shamu, wana wa Israeli wakapita. Mpasua bahari, nakuita baba. Fanya njia watu wapitie. Fungua milango iliyofungwa baba. Fanya njia pasipo na njia. Fungua milango iliyofungwa baba. Fanya njia pasipo na njia. Fungua milango baba. Fungua milango. Usikate tamaa rafiki yangu. Yeye ni yule jana, leo na hata milele. Alivyotenda nyakati za Biblia, atatenda